I am Ra. I greet you in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. I communicate now. Question 27.1. Questioner: Jim has felt the obligation to ask two questions that were asked of him by Paul Shockley, and I will ask those two first, in case you are able to answer them before we get started. The first question: Paul Shockley is presently channeling the same source which Edgar Cayce channeled, and he has received information that he took part in the design and construction of the Egyptian pyramids. Can you tell us what his role was in that effort? Answer: I am Ra. This was in your space-time continuum, 2 periods and 2 lifetimes. The first of a physical nature working with Confederation entities in what you know of as Atlantis, this approximately 13,000 of your years ago. This memory, shall we say, being integrated into the unconscious of the mind, body, spirit complex of this entity due to its extreme desire to remember the service of healing and polarization possible by the mechanisms of the crystal and the charged healer. The second experience being approximately 1,000 of your years later, during which experience this entity prepared, in some part, the consciousness of the people of what you now call Egypt, that they were able to offer the calling that enabled those of our social memory complex to walk among your peoples. During this life experience this entity was of a priest and teaching nature and succeeded in remembering in semi-distorted form the learned teachings of the Atlantean pyramidal experiences. Thus this entity became a builder of the archetypal thought of the law of one with distortions towards healing, which aided our people in bringing this through into a physical manifestation. Question 27.2. Questioner: The second question is, Paul has also received information that there were other beings aiding in the construction of the pyramids, but that they were not fully materialized in the third density. They were materialized from their waist up to their heads, but were not materialized from their waist down to their feet. Did such entities exist and aid in the construction of the pyramids, and who were they? Answer: I am Ra. Consider, if you will, the intelligent infinity present in the absorption of livingness and beingness as it becomes codified into intelligent energy, due to the thought impressions of those assisting the living stone into a new shape of beingness. The release and use of intelligent infinity for a brief period begins to absorb all the consecutive or interlocking dimensions, thus offering brief glimpses of those projecting to the material their thought. These beings thus beginning to materialize but not remaining visible. These beings were the thought form or third density visible manifestation of our social memory complex as we offered contact from our intelligent infinity to the intelligent infinity of the stone. Question 27.3. Questioner: This session I thought we would start Book 2 of the Law of One, which will focus on what we consider to be the only important aspect of our being. This, I assume, will be a much more difficult task than the first book. We want to focus on things that are not transient, and as questioner I may have difficulty at times. When I do have this difficulty, I may fall back on some transient questions simply because I will not be able to formulate what I really need, and I apologize for this. I will try my best to stay on the track and eliminate things of no value from the book if they do occur during my questioning. The statement I will make to begin with is, in this density we tend to focus our minds on some transient condition or activity with little regard to its value or use as an aid or a tool for growth and understanding of the true and undistorted essence of the creation of which we are an integral part. I will attempt, by starting at the beginning of creation, to establish an overview of ourselves in the creation, thereby arriving at a more informed viewpoint of what we consider to be reality. It is hoped that this will allow us to participate more effectively in the process of evolution. I would like to start with definitions of words that we have been using that possibly we have not and possibly cannot understand totally, but since the first words that we use are intelligent infinity, I would like for you to define each of these words and give the definition of their combination. Answer: I am Ra. Your vibrations of mind complex indicate a query. However, your vibrational sound complex indicate a preference. Please restate. Question 27.4. Questioner: Would you define the word intelligent in the context of intelligent infinity? Answer: I am Ra. We shall address the entire spectrum of this question before defining as requested. Your language, using vibrational sound complexes, can be at best an approximation of that which is closer to an understanding, if you will, of the nature of conscious thought. Perceptions are not the same as sound vibration complexes, and the attempt to define will therefore be a frustrating one for you, although we are happy to aid you within the limits of your sound vibration complexes. To define intelligent apart from infinity is difficult, for these two vibration complexes equal one concept. It is much like attempting to divide your sound vibration concept, faith, into two parts. We shall attempt to aid you, however. Question 27.5. Questioner, it is not necessary to divide it. The definition of intelligent infinity is sufficient. Could you define that, please? Answer, I am Ra. This is exponentially simpler and less confusing. There is unity. This unity is all that there is. This unity has a potential and kinetic. The potential is intelligent infinity. Tapping this potential will yield work. This work has been called by us intelligent energy. The nature of this work is dependent upon the particular distortion of free will, which in turn is the nature of a particular intelligent energy of kinetic focus of the potential of unity, or that which is all. Question 27.6. Questioner, I would like to expand a little on the concept of work. In Newtonian physics, the concept of work is the product of force and distance. I am assuming that the work of which you speak is a much broader term, including possibly work in consciousness. Am I correct? Answer, I am Ra. As we use this term, it is universal in application. Intelligent infinity has a rhythm or flow as of a giant heart, beginning with the central sun, as you would think or conceive of this, the presence of the flow inevitable as at height of beingness, without polarity, without finity, the vast and silent, all beating outward, focusing outward and inward until the focus is a complete. The intelligence or consciousness of foci have reached a state where their, shall we say, spiritual nature or mass calls them inward until all is coalesced. This is the rhythm of reality as you spoke. Question 27.7. Questioner, then I think I have extracted an important point from this, in that in intelligent infinity we have work without polarity, or a potential difference does not have to exist. Is this correct? Answer, I am Ra. There is no difference, potential or kinetic, in unity. The basic rhythms of intelligent infinity are totally without distortion of any kind. The rhythms are clothed in mystery, for they are being itself. From this undistorted unity, however, appears a potential in relation to intelligent energy. In this way you may observe the term to be somewhat two-sided, one use of the term, that being as the undistorted unity, being without any kinetic or potential side. The other application of this term, which we use undifferentiatedly for lack of other terms in the sense of the vast potential tapped into by foci or focuses of energy, we call intelligent energy. Question 27.8. Questioner, I understand that the first distortion of intelligent infinity is the distortion of what we call free will. Can you give me a definition of this distortion? Answer, I am Ra. In this distortion of the law of one, it is recognized that the Creator will know itself. Question 27.9. Questioner, then am I correct in assuming that the Creator then grants for this knowing the concept of total freedom of choice in the ways of knowing? Am I correct? Answer, I am Ra. This is quite correct. Question 27.10. Questioner, this then being the first distortion of the law of one, which I am assuming is the law of intelligent infinity, all other distortions which are the total experience of the creation spring from this. Is this correct? Answer, I am Ra. This is both correct and incorrect. In your illusion all experience springs from the law of free will or the way of confusion. In another sense, which we are learning, the experiences are this distortion. Question 27.11. Questioner, I will have to think about that and ask questions on it in the next session, so I will go on now to what you have given me as the second distortion, which is the distortion of love. Is this correct? Answer, I am Ra. This is correct. Question 27.12. Questioner, I would like for you to define love in its sense as the second distortion. Answer, I am Ra. This must be defined against the background of intelligent infinity or unity or the one creator with the primal distortion of free will. The term love then may be seen as the focus, the choice of attack, the type of energy of an extremely, shall we say, high order which causes intelligent energy to be formed from the potential of intelligent infinity in just such and such a way. This then may be seen to be an object rather than an activity by some of your peoples, and the principle of this extremely strong energy focus being worshipped as the creator instead of unity or oneness from which all loves emanate. Question 27.13. Questioner, is there a manifestation of love that we could call vibration? Answer, I am Ra. Again we reach semantic difficulties. The vibration or density of love or understanding is not a term used in the same sense as the second distortion, love, the distortion love being the great activator and primal co-creator of various creations using intelligent infinity, the vibration love being that density in which those who have learned to do an activity called loving without significant distortion, then seek the ways of light or wisdom. Thus in vibratory sense love comes into light in the sense of the activity of unity in its free will. Love uses light and has the power to direct light in its distortions. Thus vibratory complexes recapitulate and reverse the creation in its unity, thus showing the rhythm or flow of the great heartbeat, if you will use this analogy. Question 27.14. Questioner, I will make a statement that I have extracted from the physics of Joule which may or may not be close to what we are trying to explain. Lawson says that all is motion which we can take as vibration, and that vibration is pure vibration and is not physical in any way or in any form or density, and the first product of that vibration is what we call the photon or particle of light. I am trying to make an analogy between this physical solution and the concept of love and light. Is this close to the concept of love creating light? Answer, I am Ra. You are correct. Question 27.15. Questioner, then I will expand a bit more on this concept. We have the infinite vibration of love which can occur, I am assuming, at varying frequencies. I would assume that begins at one basic frequency. Does this have any meaning? Answer, I am Ra. Each love, as you term the prime movers, comes from one frequency, if you wish to use this term. This frequency is unity. We would perhaps liken it rather to a strength than a frequency, this strength being infinite, the finite qualities being chosen by the particular nature of this primal movement. Question 27.16. Questioner, then this vibration which is, for lack of better understanding, pure motion, it is pure love, it is nothing that has yet condensed, shall we say, to form any type of density of illusion. This love then creates by this process of vibration a photon, as we call it, which is the basic particle of light. This photon then, by added vibrations and rotation, further condenses into particles of the densities we experience. Is this correct? Answer, I am Ra. This is correct. Question 27.17. Questioner, then this light which forms the densities is what we call color. This color is divided into 7 categories. Can you tell me if there is a reason or explanation for these categories of color? Answer, I am Ra. This will be the last complete question of this session as this instrument is low on vital energy. We will answer briefly and then you may question further in subsequent sessions. The nature of the vibratory patterns of your universe is dependent upon the configurations placed upon the original material or light by the focus or love using its intelligent energy to create a certain pattern of illusions or densities in order to satisfy its own intelligent estimate of a method of knowing itself. Thus the colors, as you call them, are as straight, or narrow, or necessary as is possible to express, given the will of love. There is further information which we shall be happy to share by answering your questions. However, we do not wish to deplete this instrument. Is there a short query necessary before we leave? Question 27.18. Questioner, the only thing I need to know is if there is anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to help it or this contact. Answer, I am Ra. This instrument is slightly uncomfortable. Perhaps a simpler configuration of the body would be appropriate given the instrument's improving physical complex condition. I am Ra. You are conscientious in your endeavors. We shall be with you. We leave you now in the love and in the light of the One Infinite Creator. Rejoice, therefore, in the power and the peace of the One Infinite Creator. Adonai. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and the light of the Infinite Creator. I communicate now. Question 28.1. Questioner, I may be backtracking a little today because I think that possibly we are at the most important part of what we are doing in trying to make it apparent how everything is one, how it comes from one intelligent infinity. This is difficult, so please bear with my errors in questioning. The concept that I have right now of the process, using both what you have told me and some of your last material having to do with the physics of the process, as that intelligent infinity expands outward from all locations everywhere. It expands outward uniformly like the surface of a bubble or a balloon expanding outward from every point everywhere. It expands outward at what is called unit velocity or the velocity of light. This is Lassam's idea of the progression of what he calls space-time. Is this concept correct? Answer, I am Ra. This concept is incorrect as is any concept of the one intelligent infinity. This concept is correct in the context of one particular logos, or love, or focus of this creator which has chosen its, shall we say, natural laws and ways of expressing them mathematically and otherwise. The one undifferentiated intelligent infinity, unpolarized, full and whole is the macrocosm of the mystery-clad being. We are messengers of the law of one. Unity, at this approximation of understanding, cannot be specified by any physics but only become activated or potentiated intelligent infinity due to the catalyst of free will. This may be difficult to accept. However, the understandings we have to share begin and end in mystery. Question 28.2. Questioner, yesterday we had arrived at a point where we were considering colors of light. You said, the nature of the vibratory patterns of your universe is dependent upon the configurations placed upon the original material or light by the focus or love using its intelligent energy to create a certain pattern of illusions or densities in order to satisfy its own intelligent estimate of a method of knowing itself. Then after this you said that there was more material that you would be happy to share, but we ran out of time. Could you give us further information on that? Answer, I am Ra. In discussing this information we then, shall we say, snap back into the particular methods of understanding or seeing that which the one, sound vibration complex, DUI, offers, this being correct for the second meaning of intelligent infinity, the potential which then through catalyst forms the kinetic. This information is a natural progression of inspection of the kinetic shape of your environment. You may understand each color or ray as being, as we had said, a very specific and accurate portion of intelligent energy's representation of intelligent infinity, each ray having been previously inspected in other regards. This information may be of aid here. We speak now non-specifically to increase the depth of your conceptualization of the nature of what is. The universe in which you live is recapitulation in each part of intelligent infinity. Thus you will see the same patterns repeated in physical and metaphysical areas, the rays or portions of light being, as you surmise, those areas of what you may call the physical illusion which rotate, vibrate, or are of a nature that may be, shall we say, counted or categorized in rotation and manner in space-time as described by the one known as Dewey. Some substances having various of the rays in a physical manifestation visible to the eye, this being apparent in the nature of your crystallized minerals which you count as precious, the ruby being red and so forth. Question 28.3. Questioner, this light occurred as a consequence of vibration which is a consequence of love. I am going to ask if that statement is correct. Answer, I am Ra. This statement is correct. Question 28.4. Questioner, This light then can condense into material as we know it, into our density, into all of our chemical elements because of rotations of the vibration at quantized units or intervals of angular velocity. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is quite correct. Question 28.5. Questioner: Thank you. I am wondering, what is the catalyst or the activator of the rotation? What causes the rotation so that light condenses into our physical or chemical elements? Answer: I am Ra. It is necessary to consider the enabling function of the focus known as love. This energy is of an ordering nature. It orders in a cumulative way from greater to lesser so that when its universe, as you may call it, is complete, the manner of development of each detail is inherent in the living light and thus will develop in such and such a way, your own universe having been well studied in an empirical fashion by those you call your scientists and having been understood or visualized, shall we say, with greater accuracy by the understandings or visualizations of the one known as Dewey. Question 28.6. Questioner: When does the individualization or the individualized portion of consciousness come into play? At what point does individualized consciousness take over working on the basic light? Answer: I am Ra. You remain carefully in the area of creation itself. In this process we must further confuse you by stating that the process by which free will acts upon potential intelligent infinity to become focused intelligent energy takes place without the space-time of which you are so aware, as it is your continuum experience. The experience or existence of space-time comes into being after the individuation process of Logos or love has been completed and the physical universe, as you would call it, has coalesced or begun to draw inward while moving outward to the extent that which you call your sun bodies have in their turn created timeless chaos coalescing into what you call planets. These vortices of intelligent energy spending a large amount of what you would call first density in a timeless state, the space-time realization being one of the learned teachings of this density of beingness. Thus we have difficulty answering your questions with regard to time and space and the relationship to the, what you would call, original creation, which is not a part of space-time as you can understand it. Question 28.7. Questioner: Thank you. Does a unit of consciousness, an individualized unit of consciousness, create a unit of the creation? I will give an example. One individualized consciousness creates one galaxy of stars, the type that has many millions of stars in it. Does this happen? Answer: I am Ra. This can happen. The possibilities are infinite. Thus a Logos may create what you call a star system, or it may be the Logos creating billions of star systems. This is the cause of the confusion in the term galaxy, for there are many different Logos entities or creations, and we would call each, using your sound vibration complexes, a galaxy. Question 28.8. Questioner: Let's take as an example the planet that we are on now and tell me how much of the creation was created by the same Logos that created this planet. Answer: I am Ra. This planetary Logos is a strong Logos creating approximately 250 billion of your star systems for its creation. The, shall we say, laws or physical ways of this creation will remain, therefore, constant. Question 28.9. Questioner: Then what you are saying is that the lenticular star system which we call a galaxy that we find ourselves in with approximately 250 billion other suns like our own was created by a single Logos. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is correct. Question 28.10. Questioner: Since there are many individualized portions of consciousness in this lenticular galaxy, did this Logos then subdivide into more individualization of consciousness to create these consciousnesses? Answer: I am Ra. You are perceptive. This is also correct, although an apparent paradox. Question 28.11. Questioner: Could you tell me what you mean by an apparent paradox? Answer: I am Ra. It would seem that if one Logos creates the intelligent energy ways for a large system, there will not be the necessity or possibility of the further sub-Logos differentiation. However, within limits, this is precisely the case, and it is perceptive that this has been seen. Question 28.12. Questioner: Thank you. I'll call the lenticular galaxy that we are in the major galaxy just so we will not get mixed up in our terms. Does all the consciousness in individualized form that goes into what we are calling the major galaxy start out and go through all of the densities in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and into the 8th? Or are there some who start up higher in the rank so that there is always a mixture of intelligent consciousness in the galaxy? Answer: I am Ra. The latter is more nearly correct. In each beginning there is the beginning from infinite strength. Free will acts as a catalyst. Beings begin to form the universes. Consciousness then begins to have the potential to experience. The potentials of experience are created as a part of intelligent energy and are fixed before experience begins. However, there is always, due to free will acting infinitely upon the creation, a great variation in initial responses to intelligent energy's potential. Thus almost immediately the foundations of the, shall we call it, hierarchical nature of beings begins to manifest as some portions of consciousness or awareness learned through experience in a much more efficient manner. Question 28.13. Questioner: is there any reason for some portions being much more efficient in learning? Answer: I am Ra. Is there any reason for some to learn more quickly than others? Look, if you wish, to the function of the will, the, shall we say, attraction to the upward spiraling line of light. Question 28.14. Questioner: I am assuming that there are 8 densities created when this major galaxy was created. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is basically correct. However, it is well to perceive that the 8th density functions also as the beginning density or first density, in its latter stages, of the next octave of densities. Question 28.15. Questioner: are you saying then that there are an infinite number of octaves of densities 1 through 8? Answer: I am Ra. We wish to establish that we are truly humble messengers of the law of one. We can speak to you of our experiences and our understandings, and learn in limited ways. However, we cannot speak in firm knowledge of all the creations. We know only that they are infinite. We assume an infinite number of octaves. However, it has been impressed upon us by our own teachers that there is a mystery-clad unity of creation in which all consciousness periodically coalesces and again begins. Thus we can only say we assume an infinite progression, though we understand it to be cyclical in nature and, as we have said, clad in mystery. Question 28.16. Questioner: thank you. When this major galaxy is formed by the Logos, polarity then exists in a sense that we have electrical polarity. We do have electrical polarity existing at that time. Is that correct? Answer: I am Ra. I accept this as correct with the stipulation that what you term electrical be understood as not only the one lesson stipulated its meaning but also in what you would call the metaphysical sense. Question 28.17. Questioner: are you saying then that we have not only a polarity of electrical charge but also a polarity in consciousness at that time? Answer: I am Ra. This is correct. All is potentially available from the beginning of your physical space-time, it then being the function of consciousness complexes to begin to use the physical materials to gain experience to then polarize in a metaphysical sense. The potentials for this are not created by the experiencer but by intelligent energy. This will be the last full question of this session due to our desire to foster this instrument as it slowly regains physical complex energy. May we ask if you have 1 or 2 questions we may answer shortly before we close? Question 28.18. Questioner: I am assuming that the process of creation, after the original creation of the major galaxy, is continued by the further individualization of the consciousness of the Logos, so that there are many, many portions of the individualized consciousness creating further items for experience all over the galaxy. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is correct, for within the, shall we say, guidelines or ways of the Logos, the sub-Logos may find various means of differentiating experiences without removing or adding to these ways. Question 28.19. Questioner: thank you. And since we are out of time, I will ask if there is anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to help the contact. Answer: I am Ra. This instrument is well adjusted. You are conscientious. I am Ra. I leave you, my friends, in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth then rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one Creator. Adonai. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and the light of the infinite Creator. I communicate now. Question 29.1. Questioner, is our sun a sublogos or the physical manifestation of a sublogos? Answer, I am Ra. This is correct. Question 29.2. Questioner, then I am assuming that this sublogos created this planetary system in all of its densities. Is this correct? Answer, I am Ra. This is incorrect. The sublogos of your solar entity differentiated some exponential components within the patterns of intelligent energy set in motion by the logos which created the basic conditions and vibratory rates consistent throughout your, what you have called, major galaxy. Question 29.3. Questioner, then is this sublogos which is our sun the same sublogos just manifesting in different parts through the galaxy, or is it all the stars in the galaxy? Answer, I am Ra. Please restate. Question 29.4. Questioner, what I'm saying is that there are roughly 250 billion stars somewhat like ours in this major galaxy. Are they all part of the same sublogos? Answer, I am Ra. They are all part of the same logos. Your solar system, as you would call it, is a manifestation somewhat and slightly different due to the presence of a sublogos. Question 29.5. Questioner, let me be sure I'm right then. Our sun is a sublogos of the major galaxy? Answer, I am Ra. This is correct. Question 29.6. Questioner, are there any sub-sublogos that are found in our planetary system that are sub to our sun? Answer, I am Ra. This is correct. Question 29.7. Questioner, would you give me an example of what I will call a sub-sublogos? Answer, I am Ra. One example is your mind-body-spirit complex. Question 29.8. Questioner, then every entity that exists would be some type of sub or sub-sublogos. Is that correct? Answer, I am Ra. This is correct down to the limits of any observation, for the entire creation is alive. Question 29.9. Questioner, then the planet which we walk upon here would be some form of sub-sublogos. Is this correct? Answer, I am Ra. A planetary entity is so named only as logos if it is working in harmonic fashion with entities or mind-body complexes upon its surface or within its electromagnetic field. Question 29.10. Questioner, do the sublogos such as our sun have a metaphysical polarity positive or negative as we have been using the term? Answer, I am Ra. As you use the term, this is not so. Entities through the level of planetary have the strength of intelligent infinity through the use of free will, going through the actions of beingness. The polarity is not thusly as you understand polarity. It is only when the planetary sphere begins harmonically interacting with mind-body complexes, and more especially mind-body-spirit complexes, that planetary spheres take on distortions due to the thought complexes of entities interacting with the planetary entity. The creation of the one infinite Creator does not have the polarity you speak of. Question 29.11. Questioner, thank you. Yesterday you stated that planets in first density are in a timeless state to begin with. Can you tell me how the effect that we appreciate as time comes into being? Answer, I am Ra. We have just described to you the state of beingness of each logos. The process by which space-time comes into continuum form is a function of the careful building, shall we say, of an entire or whole plan of vibratory rates, densities, and potentials. When this plan has coalesced in the thought complexes of love, then the physical manifestations begin to appear, this first manifestation stage being awareness or consciousness. At the point at which this coalescence is at the livingness or beingness point, the point or fountainhead of beginning, space-time then begins to unroll its scroll of livingness. Question 29.12. Questioner: I believe that love creates the vibration in space-time in order to form the photon. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is essentially correct. Question 29.13. Questioner: then the continued application of love, I will assume that this is directed by a sublogos or a sub-sublogos, creates rotations of these vibrations which are in discrete units of angular velocity. This then creates chemical elements in our physical illusion, and I will assume the elements in the non-physical or other densities in the illusion. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. The logos creates all densities. Your question was unclear. However, we shall state the logos does create both the space-time densities and the accompanying time-space densities. Question 29.14. Questioner: what I am assuming is that quantized incremental rotations of the vibrations show up as a material of these densities. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is essentially correct. Question 29.15. Questioner: then because of these rotations there is an inward motion of these particles which is opposite the direction of space-time progression as I understand it, and this inward progression then is seen by us as what we call gravity. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. This is incorrect. Question 29.16. Questioner: can you tell me how the gravity comes about? Answer: I am Ra. This that you speak of as gravity may be seen as the pressing towards the inner light love, the seeking towards the spiral line of light which progresses towards the Creator. This is a manifestation of a spiritual event or condition of livingness. Question 29.17. Questioner: the gravity that we know of on our moon is less than it is on our planet. Is there a metaphysical principle behind this that you could explain? Answer: I am Ra. The metaphysical and physical are inseparable. Thus that of which you spoke which attempts to explain this phenomenon is able to, shall we say, calculate the gravitational force of most objects due to the various physical aspects such as what you know of as mass. However, we felt it was necessary to indicate the corresponding and equally important metaphysical nature of gravity. Question 29.18. Questioner: I sometimes have difficulty in getting a foothold into what I am looking for. I am trying to seek out the metaphysical principles, you might say, behind our physical illusion. Could you give me an example of the amount of gravity in the third density conditions at the surface of the planet Venus? Would it be greater or less than Earth's? Answer: I am Ra. The gravity, shall we say, the attractive force which we also describe as the pressing outward force towards the Creator is greater spiritually upon the entity you call Venus due to the greater degree of success, shall we say, at seeking the Creator. This point only becomes important when you consider that when all of creation in its infinity has reached a spiritual gravitational mass of sufficient nature, the entire creation infinitely coalesces, the light seeking and finding its source and thusly ending the creation and beginning a new creation, much as you consider the black hole, as you call it, with its conditions of infinitely great mass at the 0 point from which no light may be seen as it has been absorbed. Question 29.19. Questioner: then the black hole would be a point at which the environmental material has succeeded in uniting with unity or with the Creator. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. The black hole which manifests third density is the physical complex manifestation of this spiritual or metaphysical state. This is correct. Question 29.20. Questioner: then when our planet is fully into fourth density, will there be a greater gravity? Answer: I am Ra. There will be a greater spiritual gravity, thus causing a denser illusion. Question 29.21. Questioner: this denser illusion then I would assume increases gravitational acceleration above the 32 feet per second squared that we experience. Is this correct? Answer: I am Ra. Your entities do not have the instrumentation to measure spiritual gravity but only to observe a few of its extreme manifestations. Question 29.22. Questioner, this I know, that we can't measure spiritual gravity, but I was just wondering if the physical effect could be measured as an increase in the gravitational constant? That was my question. Answer, I am Ra. The increase measurable by existing instrumentation would and will be statistical in nature only and not significant. Question 29.23. Questioner, okay, as the creation is formed, as the atoms form as rotations of the vibration which is light, they coalesce in a certain manner sometimes. They produce a lattice structure which we call crystalline. I am guessing that because of the formation from intelligent energy of the precise crystalline structure that it is possible by some technique to tap intelligent energy and bring it into the physical illusion by working through the crystalline structure. Is this correct? Answer, I am Ra. This is correct only insofar as the crystalline physical structure is charged by a correspondingly crystallized or regularized or balanced mind, body, spirit complex. Question 29.24. Questioner, I don't wish to get off on subjects of no importance, but it is difficult sometimes to see precisely in what direction to go. I would like to investigate a little bit more this idea of crystals, how they are used. I am assuming then from what you said that in order to use the crystal to tap intelligent energy, it is necessary to have a partially undistorted mind, body, spirit complex. Is this correct? Answer, I am Ra. This is specifically correct. Question 29.25. Questioner, there must be a point at which the removal of distortion reaches the minimum for use of the crystal in tapping intelligent energy. Is this correct? Answer, I am Ra. This is correct only if it is understood, shall we say, that each mind, body, spirit complex has a unique such point. Question 29.26. Questioner, can you tell me why each mind, body, spirit complex has this unique point of distortion reading? Answer, I am Ra. Each mind, body, spirit complex is a unique portion of the one creator. Question 29.27. Questioner, then you are saying that there is no single level of purity required to tap intelligent energy through crystals, but there can be a wide variation in the amount of distortion that an entity may have, but each entity has to reach his particular point of what I might call energizing the ability. Is this right? Answer, I am Ra. This is incorrect. The necessity is for the mind, body, spirit complex to be of a certain balance, this balance thus enabling it to reach a set level of lack of distortion. The critical difficulties are unique for each mind, body, spirit complex due to the experiential distillations which in total are the, shall we say, violet ray beingness of each such entity. This balance is what is necessary for work to be done in seeking the gateway to intelligent infinity through the use of crystals or through any other use. No two mind, body, spirit crystallized natures are the same. The distortion requirements, vibrationally speaking, are set. Question 29.28. Questioner, I see. Then if you are able to read the violet ray of an entity, to see that ray, is it possible to immediately determine whether the entity could use crystals to tap intelligent energy? Answer, I am Ra. It is possible for one of fifth density or above to do this. Question 29.29. Questioner, is it possible for you to tell me how an entity who has satisfactorily achieved the necessary violet ray qualification should use the crystal? Answer, I am Ra. The gateway to intelligent infinity is born of, shall we say, the sympathetic vibration in balanced state accompanying the will to serve, the will to seek. Question 29.30. Questioner, can you tell me precisely what the entity would do with the crystal to use it for the purpose of seeking the intelligent infinity? Answer, I am Ra. The use of the crystal in physical manifestation is that use wherein the entity of crystalline nature charges the regularized physical crystal with this seeking, thus enabling it to vibrate harmonically, and also become the catalyst or gateway whereby intelligent infinity may thus become intelligent energy, this crystal serving as an analog of the violet ray of the mind, body, spirit in relatively undistorted form. Question 29.31. Questioner, is it possible for you to instruct us in the specific uses of crystals? Answer, I am Ra. It is possible. We consider things which are not efficacious to tell you due to possible infringement upon your free will. Entities of the Confederation have done this in the past. The uses of the crystal, as you know, include the uses for healing, for power, and even for the development of life forms. We feel that it is unwise to offer instruction at this time, as your peoples have shown a tendency to use peaceful sources of power for disharmonious reasons. Question 29.32. Questioner: is it possible for you to give me an example of various planetary developments in what I would call a metaphysical sense having to do with the development of consciousness and its polarities throughout the galaxy? In other words, I believe that some of these planets develop quite rapidly into higher density planets and some take longer times. Can you give me some idea of that development? Answer: I am Ra. This will be the final full query of this session. The particular logos of your major galaxy has used a large portion of its coalesced material to reflect the beingness of the Creator. In this way there is much of your galactic system which does not have the progression of which you speak but dwells spiritually as a portion of the logos. Of those entities upon which consciousness dwells there is, as you surmise, a variety of time-space periods during which the higher densities of experience are attained by consciousness. Question 29.33. Questioner: the instrument had a question. If we have time for a short question, I will read it. The instrument does not desire to do physical healing work. She already does spiritual balancing by hands. Can she read the private healing material without doing physical healing? I am assuming that she means can she read it without creating problems in her life pattern? She does not wish to incur lessening of positive polarity. Can she read the material under these conditions? Answer: I am Ra. We shall speak shortly due to the fact that we are attempting to conserve this instrument's vital energies during the 3-month period of which we have spoken. This entity has an exponential history of healing on levels other than the so-called physical. Thus it is acceptable that this material be read. However, the exercise of fire shall never be practiced by this instrument as it is used in the stronger form for physical healing. Is there any short query further before we close? Question 29.34. Questioner: is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? Answer: I am Ra. You are conscientious. The entity is well aligned. I am Ra. I leave you now in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Question 30.1. Questioner: I am going to make a statement and then let you correct it if I have made any errors. This is the statement: creation is a single entity or unity. If only a single entity exists, then the only concept of service is the concept of service to self. If this single entity subdivides, then the concept of service of one of its parts to one of its other parts is born. From this springs the equality of service to self or to others. It would seem that as the logos subdivided, parts would select each orientation. As individualized entities emerge in space-time, then I would assume that they have polarity. Is this statement correct? Answer: I am Ra. This statement is quite perceptive and correct until the final phrase, in which we note that the polarities begin to be explored only at the point when a third density entity becomes aware of the possibility of choice between the concept or distortion of service to self or service to others. This marks the end of what you may call the unself-conscious or innocent phase of conscious awareness. Question 30.2. Questioner: thank you. Would you define mind, body, and spirit separately? Answer: I am Ra. These terms are all simplistic descriptive terms which equal a complex of energy focuses, the body as you call it, being the material of the density which you experience at a given space-time or time-space, this complex of materials being available for distortions of what you would call physical manifestation. The mind is a complex which reflects the inpourings of the spirit and the outpourings of the body complex. It contains what you know as feelings, emotions, and intellectual thoughts in its more conscious complexities. Moving further down the tree of mind we see the intuition which is of the nature of the mind more in contact or in tune with the total beingness complex. Moving down to the roots of mind we find the progression of consciousness which gradually turns from the personal to the racial memory, to the cosmic influxes, and thus becomes a direct contactor of that shuttle which we call the spirit complex. This spirit complex is the channel whereby the inpourings from all of the various universal, planetary, and personal inpourings may be funneled into the roots of consciousness, and whereby consciousness may be funneled to the gateway of intelligent infinity through the balanced intelligent energy of body and mind. You will see by this series of definitive statements that mind, body, and spirit are inextricably intertwined and cannot continue one without the other. Thus we refer to the mind, body, spirit complex rather than attempting to deal with them separately, for the work, shall we say, that you do during your experiences is done through the interaction of these three components, not through any one. Question 30.3. Questioner, upon our physical death, as we call it, from this particular density and this particular incarnative experience, we lose this chemical body. Immediately after the loss of this chemical body, do we maintain a different type of body? Is there still a mind, body, spirit complex at that point? Answer, I am Ra. This is correct. The mind, body, spirit complex is quite intact. The physical body complex you now associate with the term body being but manifestation of a more dense and intelligently informed and powerful body complex. Question 30.4. Questioner, is there any loss to the mind or spirit after this transition which we call death, or any impairment of either because of the loss of this chemical body which we now have? Answer, I am Ra. In your terms there is a great loss of mind complex due to the fact that much of the activity of the mental nature of which you are aware during the experience of this space-time continuum is as much of a surface illusion as is the chemical body complex. In other terms, nothing whatever of importance is lost. The character, or, shall we say, pure distortion of emotions and biases, or distortions and wisdoms, if you will, becoming obvious for the first time, shall we say, these pure emotions and wisdoms and biased distortions being, for the most part, either ignored or underestimated during physical life experience. In terms of the spiritual, this channel is then much opened due to the lack of necessity for the forgetting characteristic of third density. Question 30.5. Questioner, I would like to know how the mind, body, spirit complexes originate, going as far back as necessary. How does the origination occur? Do they originate by spirit forming mind and mind forming body? Can you tell me this? Answer, I am Ra. We ask you to consider that you are attempting to trace evolution. This evolution is as we have previously described, the consciousness being first, in first density, without movement, a random thing. Whether you may call this mind or body complex is a semantic problem. We call it mind-body complex, recognizing always that in the simplest iota of this complex exists in its entirety the one infinite creator. This mind-body complex then in second density discovering the growing and turning towards the light, thus awakening what you may call the spirit complex, that which intensifies the upward spiraling towards the love and light of the infinite creator. The addition of this spirit complex, though apparent rather than real, it having existed potentially from the beginning of space-time, perfects itself by graduation into third density. When the mind, body, spirit complex becomes aware of the possibility of service to self or other self, then the mind, body, spirit complex is activated. Question 30.6. Questioner, thank you. I don't wish to cover ground that we have covered before, but it sometimes is helpful to restate these concepts for complete clarity, since words are a poor tool for what we do. Just as our passing point, I was wondering, on this planet during the second density I believe there was habitation during the same space-time of bipedal entities and what we call the dinosaurs. Is this correct? Answer, I am Ra. This is correct. Question 30.7. Questioner, these two types of entities seem to be very incompatible, you might say, with each other. I don't know, but can you tell me the reason for both types of entities inhabiting the same space-time? Answer, I am Ra. Consider the workings of free will as applied to evolution. There are paths that the mind-body complex follows in an attempt to survive, to reproduce and to seek in its fashion that which is unconsciously felt as the potential for growth, these two arenas or paths of development being two among many. Question 30.8. Questioner, in second density the concept of bisexual reproduction first originates. Is this correct? Answer, I am Ra. This is correct. Question 30.9. Questioner, can you tell me the philosophy behind this method of propagation of the bodily complex? Answer, I am Ra. The second density is one in which the groundwork is being laid for third density work. In this way it may be seen that the basic mechanism of reproduction capitulates into a vast potential in third density for service to other self and to self, this being not only by the functions of energy transfer, but also by the various services performed due to the close contact of those who are, shall we say, magnetically attracted one to the other, these entities thus having the opportunities for many types of service which would be unavailable to the independent entity. Question 30.10. Questioner, was the basic reason for this to increase the opportunity of the experience of the one creator? Answer, I am Ra. This is not merely correct but is the key to that which occurs in all densities. Question 30.11. Questioner, does the process of bisexual reproduction or the philosophy of it play a part in the spiritual growth of second density entities? Answer, I am Ra. In isolated instances this is so due to efficient perceptions upon the part of entities or species. For the greater part, by far, this is not the case in second density, the spiritual potentials being those of third density. Question 30.12. Questioner, thank you. Can you give me a brief history of the metaphysical principles of the development of each of our planets that surround our Sun, their function with respect to the evolution of beings? Answer, I am Ra. We shall give you a metaphysical description only of those planets upon which individual mind, body, spirit complexes have been, are, or shall be experienced. You may understand the other spheres to be a part of the Logos. We take the one known as Venus. This planetary sphere was one of rapid evolution. It is our native Earth, and the rapidity of the progress of the mind, body, spirit complexes upon its surface was due to harmonious interaction. Upon the entity known to you as Mars, as you have already discussed, this entity was stopped in mid-third density, thus being unable to continue in progression due to the lack of hospitable conditions upon the surface. This planet shall be undergoing healing for some of your space-time millennia. The planet which you dwell upon has a metaphysical history well known to you, and you may ask about it if you wish. However, we have spoken to a great degree upon this subject. The planet known as Saturn has a great affinity for the infinite intelligence, and thus it has been dwelled upon in its magnetic fields of time-space by those who wish to protect your system. The planetary entity known to you as Uranus is slowly moving through the first density and has the potential of moving through all densities. Question 30.13. Questioner, thank you. You stated yesterday that much of this major galactic system dwells spiritually as a part of the Logos. Do you mean that near the center of this major galactic system that the stars there do not have planetary systems? Is this correct? Answer, I am Ra. This is incorrect. The Logos has distributed itself throughout your galactic system. However, the time-space continua of some of your more central sun systems are much further advanced. Question 30.14. Questioner, well then, could you generally say that as you get closer to the center of this major system that there is a greater spiritual density or spiritual quality in that area? Answer, I am Ra. This will be the last full question of this session, as this instrument is somewhat uncomfortable. We do not wish to deplete the instrument. The spiritual density or mass of those more towards the center of your galaxy is known. However, this is due simply to the varying timelessness states during which the planetary spheres may coalesce, this process of space-time beginnings occurring earlier, shall we say, as you approach the center of the galactic spiral. Question 30.15. Questioner: the instrument would like to know if you could tell her whether or not this item, which is called Sam Miller's polarizer, would help her physical well-being. Could you do that? Answer: I am Ra. As we scan the instrument, we find anomalies of the magnetic field which are distorted towards our abilities to find narrowband channel into this instrument's mind, body, spirit complex. The polarizer of which you speak, as it is, would not be helpful. A careful reading of this instrument's aura by those gifted in this area, and subsequent alterations of the magnetizing forces of this polarizer, would assist the entity, Sam, in creating such a polarizer that would be of some aid to the instrument. However, we would suggest that no electrical or magnetic equipment not necessary for the recording of our words be brought into these sessions, for we wish no distortions that are not necessary. Question 30.16. Questioner: is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? Ra: this instrument is well balanced and the contact is as it should be. This instrument has certain difficulties of a distortion you would call the muscular spasm, thus making the motionless position uncomfortable. Thus we leave the instrument. I am Ra. You are doing well, my friends. I leave you in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one Creator. Adonai. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Question 31.2. Questioner: could you define sexual energy transfer and expand upon its meaning, please? Answer: I am Ra. Energy transfer implies the release of potential energies across, shall we say, a potentiated space. The sexual energy transfers occur due to the polarizations of two mind, body, spirit complexes, each of which have some potential difference one to the other. The nature of the transfer of energy or of the blockage of this energy is then a function of the interaction of these two potentials. In the cases where transfer takes place, you may liken this to a circuit being closed. You may also see this activity, as all experiential activities, as the Creator experiencing itself. Question 31.3. Questioner: could this then be the primal mechanism for the Creator to experience itself? Answer: I am Ra. This is not a proper term. Perhaps the adjectives would be, one appropriate, way of the Creator knowing itself, for in each interaction, no matter what the distortion, the Creator is experiencing itself. The bisexual knowing of the Creator by itself has the potential for two advantages. Firstly, in the green ray activated being there is the potential for a direct and simple analog of what you may call joy, the spiritual or metaphysical nature which exists in intelligent energy. This is a great aid to comprehension of a truer nature of beingness. The other potential advantage of bisexual reproductive acts is the possibility of a sacramental understanding or connection, shall we say, with the gateway to intelligent infinity, for with appropriate preparation, work in what you may call magic may be done and experiences of intelligent infinity may be had. The positively oriented individuals concentrating upon this method of reaching intelligent infinity, then, through the seeking or the act of will, are able to direct this infinite intelligence to the work these entities desire to do, whether it be knowledge of service or ability to heal or whatever service to others is desired. These are two advantages of this particular method of the Creator experiencing itself. As we have said before, the corollary of the strength of this particular energy transfer is that it opens the door, shall we say, to the individual mind, body, spirit complex's desire to serve in an infinite number of ways an other self, thus polarizing towards positive. Question 31.4. Questioner: Can you expand somewhat on the concept that this action not only allows the creator to know itself better but also creates, in our density, an offspring or makes available the pathway for another entity to enter this density? Answer: I am Ra. As we have previously said, the sexual energy transfers include the red ray transfer, which is random and which is a function of the second density attempt to grow, to survive, shall we say. This is a proper function of the sexual interaction. The offspring, as you call the incarnated entity, takes on the mind-body complex opportunity offered by this random act or event called the fertilization of egg by seed, which causes an entity to have the opportunity to then enter this density as an incarnate entity. This gives the two who were engaged in this bisexual reproductive energy transfer the potential for great service in this area of the nurturing of the small experienced entity as it gains in experience. It shall be of interest at this point to note that there is always the possibility of using these opportunities to polarize towards the negative, and this has been aided by the gradual building up over many thousands of your years of social complex distortions which create a tendency towards confusion, shall we say, or battling of the service to others aspect of this energy transfer and subsequent opportunities for service to other selves. Question 31.5. Questioner: if a sexual energy transfer occurs in green ray, and I am assuming in this case that there is no red ray energy transfer, does this mean it is impossible for this particular transfer to include fertilization and the birthing of an entity? Answer: I am Ra. This is incorrect. There is always the red ray energy transfer due to the nature of the body complex. The random result of this energy transfer will be as it will be, as a function of the possibility of fertilization at a given time in a given pairing of entities, each entity being undistorted in any vital sense by the yellow or orange ray energies, thus the gift, shall we say, being given freely, no payment being requested either of the body, of the mind, or of the spirit. The green ray is one of complete universality of love. This is a giving without expectation of return. Question 31.6. Questioner: I was wondering if there was some principle behind the fact that a sexual union does not necessarily lead to fertilization. I'm not interested in the chemical or physical principles of it. I'm interested in whether or not there is some metaphysical principle that leads to the couple having a child or not, or is it purely random? Answer: I am Ra. This is random within certain limits. If an entity has reached the seniority whereby it chooses the basic structure of the life experience, this entity may then choose to incarnate in a physical complex which is not capable of reproduction. Thus we find some entities which have chosen to be unfertile. Other entities, through free will, make use of various devices to ensure non-fertility. Except for these conditions, the condition is random. Question 31.7. Questioner: thank you. In the previous material you mentioned magnetic attraction. Would you define and expand upon that term? Answer: I am Ra. We use the term to indicate that in your bisexual natures there is that which is of polarity. This polarity may be seen to be variable according to the, shall we say, male-female polarization of each entity, be each entity biologically male or female. Thus you may see the magnetism which two entities with the appropriate balanced male-female versus female-male polarity, meeting and thus feeling the attraction which polarized forces will exert one upon the other. This is the strength of the bisexual mechanism. It does not take an active will to decide to feel attraction for one who is oppositely polarized sexually. It will occur in an inevitable sense, giving the free flow of energy a proper, shall we say, avenue. This avenue may be blocked by some distortion toward a belief condition stating to the entity that this attraction is not desired. However, the basic mechanism functions as simply as would, shall we say, the magnet and the iron. Question 31.8. Questioner: we have what seems to be an increasing number of entities incarnate here now who have what is called a homosexual orientation. Could you explain and expand upon that concept? Answer: I am Ra. Entities of this condition experience a great deal of distortion due to the fact that they have experienced many incarnations as biological male and as biological female. This would not suggest what you call homosexuality in an active phase were it not for the difficult vibratory condition of your planetary sphere. There is what you may call great aura infringement among your crowded urban areas in your more populous countries, as you call portions of your planetary surface. Under these conditions the confusions will occur. Question 31.9. Questioner: why does density of population create these confusions? Answer: I am Ra. The bisexual reproductive urge has as its goal, not only the simple reproductive function, but more especially the desire to serve others being awakened by this activity. In an overcrowded situation where each mind, body, spirit complex is under constant bombardment from other selves, it is understandable that those who are especially sensitive would not feel the desire to be of service to other selves. This would also increase the probability of a lack of desire or a blockage of the red ray reproductive energy. In an uncrowded atmosphere, this same entity would, through the stimulus of feeling the solitude about it, then have much more desire to seek out someone to whom it may be of service, thus regularizing the sexual reproductive function. Question 31.10. Questioner: roughly how many previous incarnations would a male entity in this incarnation have had in the past as a female to have a highly homosexual orientation in this incarnation? Answer: I am Ra. If an entity has had roughly 65% of its incarnations in the sexual biological body complex, the opposite polarity to its present body complex, this entity is vulnerable to infringement of your urban areas and may perhaps become of what you call an homosexual nature. It is to be noted at this juncture that although it is much more difficult, it is possible in this type of association for an entity to be of great service to another in fidelity and sincere green ray love of a non-sexual nature, thus adjusting or lessening the distortions of its sexual impairment. Question 31.11. Questioner: is there an imprint occurring on the DNA coding of an entity so that sexual biases are imprinted due to early sexual experiences? Answer: I am Ra. This is partially correct. Due to the nature of solitary sexual experiences, it is in most cases unlikely that what you call a masturbation has an imprinting effect upon later experiences. This is similarly true with some of the encounters which might be seen as homosexual among those of this age group. These are often, instead, innocent exercises in curiosity. However, it is quite accurate that the first experience in which the mind, body, spirit complex is intensely involved will indeed imprint upon the entity for that life experience a set of preferences. Question 31.12. Questioner: does the Orion group use this as a gateway to impress upon entities preferences which could be of a negative polarization? Answer: I am Ra. Just as we of the Confederation attempt to beam our love and light whenever given the opportunity, including sexual opportunities, so the Orion group will use an opportunity if it is negatively oriented or if the individual is negatively oriented. Question 31.13. Questioner: is there any emotional bias that has nothing to do with male-female sexual polarity that can create sexual energy build-up in an entity? Answer: I am Ra. The sexual energy build-up is extremely unlikely to occur without sexual bias upon the part of the entity. Perhaps we did not understand your question, but it seems obvious that it would take an entity with the potential for sexual activity to experience a sexual energy build-up. Question 31.14. Questioner: I was thinking more of the possibility of the Orion group influencing certain members of the Third Reich who I have read reports of having sexual gratification from the observation of the gassing and killing of entities in the gas chambers. Answer: I am Ra. We shall repeat, these entities had the potential for sexual energy build-up. The choice of stimulus is certainly the choice of the entity. In the case of which you speak, these entities were strongly polarized orange ray, thus finding the energy blockage of power over others, the putting to death being the ultimate power over others, this then being expressed in a sexual manner, though solitary. In this case the desire would continue unabated and be virtually unquenchable. You will find, if you observe the entire spectrum of sexual practices among your peoples, that there are those who experience such gratification from domination over others, either from rape or from other means of domination. In each case this is an example of energy blockage which is sexual in its nature. Question 31.15. Questioner, would the Orion group be able, then, to impress on entities this orange ray effect? Is this the way that this came about? If we go back to the beginning of third density, there must be a primal cause of this. Answer, I am Ra. The cause of this is not Orion. It is the free choice of your peoples. This is somewhat difficult to explain. We shall attempt. The sexual energy transfers and blockages are more a manifestation or example of that which is more fundamental than the other way about. Therefore, as your peoples became open to the concepts of bellicosity and the greed of ownership, these various distortions then began to filter down through the tree of mind into body complex expressions, the sexual expression being basic to that complex. Thus these sexual energy blockages, though Orion influenced and intensified, are basically the product of the beingness chosen freely by your peoples. This will be the final question unless we may speak further upon this question to clarify or answer any short queries before we close. Question 31.16. Questioner, I just need to know then if this works through the racial memory and infects the entire population in some way. Answer, I am Ra. The racial memory contains all that has been experienced. Thus there is some, shall we say, contamination even of the sexual, this showing mostly in your own culture as the various predispositions to adversary relationships, or, as you call them, marriages, rather than the free giving one to another in the love and the light of the infinite Creator. Question 31.17. Questioner, that was precisely the point that I was trying to make. Thank you very much. I do not wish to overtire the instrument, so I will just ask if there is anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact. Answer, I am Ra. Please be aware that this instrument is somewhat fatigued. The channel is very clear. However, we find the vital energy low. We do not wish to deplete the instrument. However, there is, shall we say, an energy exchange that we feel an honor duty to offer when this instrument opens itself. Therefore, counsel we this instrument to attempt to assess the vital energies carefully before offering itself as open channel. All is well. You are conscientious. I am Ra. I leave this instrument and you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one Creator. Adonai.